call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased.
Short break, right back. Anyway, after 1975, church membership started to dwindle a little bit, and it picked up later, but, you can just imagine why. People saw that, wow, son of a gun, duped again. This ending of the world didn't happen. A lot of people will join, not only because they're interested in this Armageddon thing and they want to read up on it, but they also do so out of fear. Wow, what if it's true? What if Jesus is coming? I don't want to go to hell. So, they would join just for that reason. I want to jump on the bandwagon here. And then, of course, when 1975 comes and goes and Jesus didn't come back, screw it. Then they go back to their life of indulgence and, drunkenness, whatever. That's really all religion is for most people, guys. It's escapism. And they would be drunks, they would be wife beaters or degenerates of whatever sort if it wasn't for this damn thing that they think is holding them together. It's pretty pathetic. So you wouldn't be a decent person except for the fear of, I'm going to be judged. That's not really a decent person now, is it? That's a decent person with a phony motive for being decent. This is how most Christians are. And this is why they're so resistant to the truth about the Bible being bullshit. This is why they can't admit it. Because they're afraid they're going to go off the deep end. So their morality really isn't based on a genuine, sincere desire to do what's right. They don't really believe in the truth because it is the truth. And even if they do have doubts that it might all be bullshit, they don't want to take a chance. What if? So I'll believe it anyway. Ordinarily, I'd be out robbing people's houses. That's not genuine morality now, is it? But then again, the Bible isn't genuine morality. Not morality at all. It's immorality. The whole damn book from Genesis to Revelation. That's all it propagates is immorality. It's all Yahweh propagates. Anyway, let's jump up to the 1980s now in the Jehovah's Witness cult here. When membership loss grew into the hundreds of thousands by the end of the 1970s, President Franz and the conservative majority on the governing body took action. Something had to be done to bring those numbers back up, get the money flowing back again. Let's see, we can't come up with another phony prediction because that's going to, hurt us more in the long run. We've got to do something else here, another strategy. In the spring of 1980, they initiated a crackdown on dissidents, breaking up the independent Bible study groups at headquarters and forming judicial committees to have those seen as ringleaders put on trial for disloyalty and apostasy. So we got to get rid of independently minded people here, independent thinkers. Again, all churches work this way, guys. When you go against the leadership and, try to expose their corruption, their lies, their scams, the false doctrines they teach, whatever. Well, false doctrine, whatever that means. The whole Bible is false doctrine, but you know what I'm saying. Pick your church, doesn't matter, they're all the same. They'll all do this. You don't question the church leadership. You can even question God in some instances. Question the Bible. But don't question the church leadership. By the time this JW purge culminated in the forced resignation and subsequent excommunication of the president's nephew and fellow governing body member Raymond Franz, a siege mentality took hold on the worldwide organization, with major turmoil now taking place, big shakedown. Even witnesses who left quietly and voluntarily for personal reasons were denounced as disloyal and were ordered to be shunned, with former friends forbidden to say as much as a single...
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to affect me the way it did. I don't know, I guess it had just been a long time, but that just kind of came out of nowhere. And anyway, she looked at the windshield of my car. I don't know if she saw me in the rain or the reflection or whatever, but she looked up and she had this, just gave me this blank look for about 3 seconds, and then she put her head back down and continued hobbling to the other side of the street, and you know, then the light changed and I drove away, but I mean, it just shot my nerves. I don't know why on that particular day. I think I have seasonal affectional disorder, those rainy days. The rest of the day, all I could think about was the just the irony of the whole situation, that this estrangement with my biological mother was all due to everything that in our family's all effed up. Everything's like all jumbled up and crazy now, and it was all based in this idea a long time ago of all of us as a family unit entering into the paradise. And the idea was that by regimenting to this lifestyle, that we were all going to coalesce as a family unit and enter into the paradise of life without end at last. And the irony being that half of us are dead now, the other half of our family is old. Shit, even I'm old now. And I don't know, there was a surrealism in that moment of, I don't know why, it was just like I was looking at this little old lady and I was thinking, you know, I'm a genetic copy of this person. I'm like a carbon copy of this person, that they literally created me of their own DNA, and that's where I guess I came from. And that but, you know, she wouldn't wave a handkerchief at me. I don't know. Well, it's a strange world. These are strange days, and, well, it's hard to be a normal person in a crazy world like this, but that's what's going on. It's just that paradise thing. It doesn't make sense to outsiders, but, well, it's paradise. That's what's going on. My dad was a man who was fixated on the Jehovah's Witness paradise, specifically the idea that dead people could live again. My father was absolutely obsessed with this concept, and it was something that was to the detriment of our entire family. He was so firmly fixated on the resurrection, the paradise, that he felt that nothing else mattered, and that was the way we lived, that nothing mattered except for the kingdom paradise. And it caused unbelievable destruction in all of our lives. My siblings, my mother, I mean, all of us were just scarred and maimed beyond recognition. We're not even like people anymore. My sister is in a mental hospital. They'll never let her out. She barricaded the door, tried to set everything on fire. When I still visualize him to this day, he is almost like a Charlton Heston type figure, that I always have these visuals. I don't know if these are exaggerated things in my mind or not. I see him he was a book study conductor. And downstairs at our Kingdom Hall, we had the B school and the C school, and he was always in the C school, and he had the book study each week. And our Kingdom Hall had a, downstairs in this big room, they had, you know, in the 70s, they had these wallpaper murals. Well, our Kingdom Hall had this wraparound, picturesque mural of a paradise scene. It was like a panoramic picture that they had made. It was like a photograph of this wooded area with a stream that went through it, and there was deer, and then there was flowers everywhere, and it was just this huge sprawling scene. And my dad, I just always have this visual of my dad sitting there in the conductor's seat, and he captivated his audience every week. I just remember him. He was one of these. He was a big man, but he was different than other big men in that his voice never lifted any higher than this, and yet he commanded such respect and attention from the entire congregation that I just remember all of us, week after week, year after year, just sitting there and being, it was almost spellbinding. The way that my dad, he wasn't one of these people that had wild gestures or pounding their fist or anything. He almost spoke it was almost a lullaby. He could almost lull you into a sense of calm. Too much. He was too reassuring to many people's damage. That his confidence was something that harmed people. Too much confidence in the kingdom. I remember we used to have family studies after school. After school, after you finished your homework, you probably went outside and shot basketball, hoops, or whatever. Well, not our family. We sat at the dining room table and studied the Bible. That's what we did. My dad wasn't one of these guys that would crack open a beer and watch TV in the evenings. He sat at the table, our family, and we would study these friggin' Watchtower books. I remember one particular study. We were going through one of these generic books they had in the 80s, one of those 192-page books that they pushed out every year. And we would study the questions and answers and do this. And this was like a 2-hour thing almost every night. This one incident, there was a picture with a caption, and my dad asked my older sister to, give a rundown of it, and my sister was looking at it. It was one of these paradise pictures that was drawn in two-tone colors back in the 80s, and it had the smiling people, and one of them was holding a panda. And my sister, she was in high school at the time, and she's like, well, it's not real. And Dad said, what do you mean it's not real? And she said, well, I mean the picture, it's like a cartoon, And Dad said, oh, okay. And she's like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. I just mean it's just a drawing. It's not like a real life thing. And Dad said, okay. Well, that Sunday after the meeting, Dad had instructed my mother to pack a picnic basket. He said that we were going to have a picnic lunch after the meeting. And when the Kingdom Hall let out, we all piled into the family station wagon, 1980 station wagon. And we started driving. We drove for about an hour, and nobody knew where we were headed to. Well, we started driving into this area in northern Kansas called the Smoky Hills. And we were winding down these roads, going nowhere, and eventually my mom was like, Jim, where are we going? And he said, a place. And we went down this particular rock road that just, it started tapering away to nothing, and then we eventually just came to we were literally where the road ends. There was nowhere left, and we pulled up to the end of this road, and we were just in this empty area, and there was these two sandstones, these two giant sandstones that were standing there like monoliths. And we got out of the car, and I remember my mom looked at my dad, and my dad just had his usual look of confidence on his face, and Dad walked ahead, and he walked in between the pillar sandstones, and then turned around and looked at my mom. She said, Jim, what is this place? And he said, It's the path of thorn and thistles. It leads to eternal life, and few are the ones finding it. Come on. And my mother took the picnic basket, and we all started walking behind her, and we walked through this rarely traveled path, I guess. We were walking uphill. We walked for a long time. It was 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And my dad was walking to the top of the hill, and I remember my mom stopped and said, "Jim, where are we going? Where are we?" And Dad turned around at the top of the hill, and he extended his hand and said, "You're with me." And we climbed to the top of the hill, and I'll never forget it. At the crest of this hill, we looked down upon a giant valley. It was this secret valley that looked like no human had ever even been there, and it was this sprawling scene of paradise. It was unbelievable. There was fields of flowers, just beautiful trees everywhere, and it was just like the picture that was on the wallpaper in the Kingdom Hall. And it was an unbelievable day. It was probably one of the greatest days of my life. I remember Mom spread the blanket, and we sat there and had lunch, and Dad told stories, and we laughed. And we just played all afternoon. Dad played with us, chased us around. I remember that there was this giant field of sunflowers, just millions of sunflowers, and my siblings and I were running through it, playing hide and seek. And we stayed there until the twilight hours. I remember the fireflies, hearing the locusts in the background, and when I made my way back out of this field of sunflowers, I remember that the sun was setting, and I could see on the top of the hill, my dad was standing there, and he was holding my mother, and they were watching the sun set together, and it was just this amazing thing that my father had proven to us. Not only that the paradise on earth was a real thing, but that the people in the pictures were real. The smiling people, it was us. I didn't graduate high school. You may not know that about me. I am a high school dropout. Well, I am. Never got that high school diploma. You see, I was in the 1990s. Was my teenage years. Well, I got to preface this by saying, if you don't know about the Jehovah's Witness religion, they whitewash their past. It's just a systematic thing that it's. You may have heard of old light, new light. Well, you don't bring up the old light. It's a punishable offense. They're very strict about it. They are constantly cleaning up and revising what actually happened. But I'm here anyway. I'll just tell you what really happened in the 90s. It wasn't just me. Basically, most kids that were in high school back then either homeschooled, the Jehovah's Witness version of homeschool, or just quit school. And the shame was that I was enrolled in my senior year of high school. I just didn't finish because everyone was pioneering, and their parents gave them permission to quit school and pioneer because, this was 1997, and it had been indicated in Watchtower literature. Now, they've sanitized this where they don't act like this anymore, but it had been for a long time indicated that the prophecies of Jehovah's Witness, the Daniel book, Revelation book, would reach their culmination in the 20th century. And people had that feeling that leading up to 1999, 2000, that we were in the closing moments. And they'll deny it all now, but that was the feeling back then. It was a trembling sensation that was just out there. Everyone had that feeling, and people thought it was the wise and prudent course to, have your kids quit school and go out and service, pioneer, the whole family pioneer. And I remember being 18 years old, out in service, new to the pioneering thing, and I took this particular door in which I knocked on it. I was standing there with another JW, and when the man answered the door, well, it was my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Pearson. He answered the door. He's wearing glasses. He took them off, and he was holding a newspaper. And I immediately recognized. I'm grown up. I'm older now, but he obviously recognized me, and I, of course, recognized him. He was my teacher. But for whatever reason, I pretended like I didn't recognize him or whatever, and I went into my presentation, and I'm sure he knew who I was, but because he had to put up with the whole Jehovah's Witness when I was in school, and I started giving my presentation, and he said, "I'm sorry, I'm not interested." And well, of course, we had been trained with the reasoning book for our conversation stoppers, and so I said, "Well, sir, are you not interested in the future, or are you not interested in other people, or what do you mean by that?" And Mr. Pearson said, "I know what you're selling, and I'm not interested." And I said, "Well, sir, we're not selling anything. We're volunteers doing a very important work that is scriptural, and is a scriptural." And he said, "Excuse me, I told you I'm not interested. Could you please show yourself away now?" And I started to say something else, and he just slowly but firmly shut the door. And I remember the person I was standing there at the door just shrugged and said, "Let's go." This thing happened to me in that moment that was completely out of character for me, that I was red in the face. I don't know if my dignity was hurt, or that I had this like frustration that I was just beside myself with. It was an anger. I was angry. I was so angry and offended at Mr. Pearson. And when we were walking back down the driveway and walking past his car, I wanted to take my car keys out and just scratch the side of his car. It was just this impulse I had. I didn't do it, of course. We went to, this is like 10:30. An hour later, we're sitting at McDonald's with all the other JWs, and they're talking and laughing. But I was just sitting there. I just had this red-faced, anger inside me that I couldn't stop thinking about the indignity that I had suffered at that door, and that I think it was this authority figure from my past was looking down at me, and just had this very I think it triggered something inside me, but I couldn't. I don't know. That night I was still upset that I just had this thing where I wanted to go back to his house and vandalize it. Well, I didn't. Don't worry. It passed. Some years later, this is 10 years later, I'm in downtown Wichita, and they have this pavilion area where on summer evenings people like to, it's this kind of this market square where people will play and run through the fountains. And it was this Saturday evening, I was walking through there, and there was a street artist that had some paintings set up on on stands there, and I was looking at one of them, and it was a black and white charcoal thing. It was and it was this guy that was sitting on his bed, and he had this very morose look on his face. He looked very troubled, and then outside the window was this glowing white cross. It obviously had a religious overtone there, but I was just standing there looking at it for a minute, and this short, fat little lady with glasses walked up to me and said, "That's a really good painting, isn't it?" I looked at it and I said, "Yeah, it's all right." And she said, "Yeah, really good painting. What do you think it means?" And I was like, is this person proselytizing to me? I was like, it was a curiosity to me. I was like, is this really happening? Well, apparently so. She was a mainstream Christian. It's a setup. It's a bait thing where they bait people in with these paintings, and then they have, it's kind of a sting operation where, they lure people in and then have somebody pounce on them. And, anyway, this lady goes into her presentation for me, and I'm mildly interested at what's going on, because I was like, wow, I'm I'm getting the presentation. She starts talking about, you know, various stuff, and then she said, well, there's this book called the Bible. Have you ever heard of the Bible? And I said, yes. I've actually spent a lot of time studying the Bible. And she said, well, in this book called the Bible, and I was like, and then she went on and was talking more, and I said, did she not hear me when I just told her that I've studied the Bible? And it was it's kind of a wake-up call for me, or it harkened me back to our Thursday night meetings of Jehovah's Witnesses, in which we would have the demonstrations on stage, in which and it was scripted out. It was in the Our Kingdom Ministry magazine, that we would have these hokey presentations and people would demonstrate them on stage, where you'd have the Jehovah's Witness and then you'd have another Jehovah's Witness representing the householder, and it was scripted to where they would ask a question. They would ask kind of this open-ended question, and then on the script it would say pause for answer, and it was in parentheses there, and then the third thing on there was, after the person gives their answer, you go to your pre-scripted thing you say next, because the answer was irrelevant. And it really, the reality of it all set in for me at that moment, that it's an imitation of a conversation. You're not really conversating with the person. It's a trick thing. That it's that feel and flavor of interacting with another person, but you're not. Because it is a very condescending thing for that you're assuming that the householder is dumber than you, knows less than you, is more ignorant than you. As far as scriptural stuff goes, I would probably talk circles around this lady. She just assumed that I had who had ever heard of a Bible? She's talking about the ransom sacrifice of Jesus. Does she really think I'm like, what's that? And she's going into this presentation that's like 5 minutes long, and I keep trying to get a word in edgewise. She keeps telling me Bible stuff, and she just interrupted me, and I'm like, I'm finally on the other side of the door. I know how it feels. How many hundreds of householders felt the same way that I did in that moment? Well, we'll never know. Anyway, she gives her presentation, and towards the end, she said, so if you ever have any questions about meaning of life or Bible, I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. And I said, I have a question. And she said, sure. And I said, if the Bible is the truth, why is it so hard to believe? And she said, huh? If God wants us to believe what's written in the Bible, why do we have to override our common sense to believe it? I mean, it seems phony. It doesn't seem real. Why would God expect us to have to force ourselves to believe something that seems to be obviously not true by just forcing ourselves to believe it against our will? Why would God expect that of us? And she said, well, the Bible says that Jesus' blood, and then she went into this thing, and I listened for a few seconds, and then I remember I started trailing off. I looked at the moon and the sky, and then she was talking and everything, but then I just started wandering off, and I walked away, and I guess I got about 20 steps away, and I could hear her still talking in the background, and she said, hey, are you going somewhere? I have these night terrors that happen. And that's my kitty cat, Sherman. Say hi, Sherman. Meow. Well, he's coming on camera here. He's coming with us. Woo! It's my buddy. You're fat and furry. You're fat and furry. That's why I like you. Chub. Well, this anxiety comes over me at night. It's like a terror thing that happens, and my friends will even tell you about this. They say, well, during daytime hours he's fine, but at night it's like a Dracula thing happens. I just turn into this nightmare thing of death. It just comes over me uncontrollably. It's something that I dread. I don't know how everyone else is so nonchalant about it. At night, I can't stop thinking about that someday bugs are going to be eating my brain. Well, they're just going to eat my brain one day. I just imagine like my skull and what used to be my face, and then there's like a centipede living in my eye socket. And, it's inevitabilities. I'm constantly troubled by the inescapability of it all. There's no solution. There's no escape. It's like you're walking the plank and it's disappearing behind you. I always feel like life is slipping away and I'm out of control. I'm always thinking about eventualities more than other people, I guess. I don't know. Everyone else said, "Well, this is just supposed to happen. Get ready for it." Eventual outcomes of everything from the beginning. I always I'll just be walking around. When I see kids eating ice cream and they're smiling or something, I'm just always thinking about the day that they're going to die. One day they're going to be in a car accident and their face is going to go through the windshield of a car or something like that. Oh, I'm sick. I'm a sicko. I have just this absolute panic that comes over me, and it's like a heart-pounding thing that just knowing that my limited days are disappearing and vanishing and I'm not even doing anything. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. My girlfriend, she'll grab my arm like she knows when it's happening, and she just puts her arms around me and she said, "You're with me." And it's the same. And it calms me. It's the same as when all those years ago my dad extended his hand to my mom and said, "You're with me," and she just keeps me safe during those moments, and I make it through. It's getting worse. It's got to be a nightly thing. I had this one night that was really bad, and I woke up. It was like 2 a.m. and I just had that heart-pounding thing going on where I just felt this terrified feeling inside, and I got in my car and I started driving, and I drove in the dark for hours. And Sherman, I'm sorry. I got up during the night and I started driving. I just got in my car and I started driving north up into the Smoky Hill region, and I drove around for hours going up and down roads until I finally came down to the road that had no end, and I found it. It was it was around daybreak. It was the sandstone pillars. They were still there. I imagined it 20 years later, and I guess it was a real thing. I got out of the car and I walked between the sandstones, and it was just like it really happened, you know. And I started walking down the trail. I noticed that on this ditch beside me there was these long scorch marks where it was fire that had been burned through there. And I remembered that I had seen on the news that there was a bacteria that had infected the wheat fields, and it was a very emergency situation that the governor had actually signed an order that all the fields be burned in the area to save the rest of the wheat crop across the state and protect the harvest. I continued walking, climbing up the hills, and I went over a hill and I went up over another hill until I finally came to the giant crest that I had remembered from all those years ago. And I climbed to the top of this precipice, and when I looked down, the entire valley was black. It had been burned with fire, just completely gutted. The trees were burned down. I even saw dead animals. There was a dead cow that had been burned. Everything was completely destroyed with fire. And I just stood there for a long time, and there wasn't even any birds in the sky. Everything was empty. And just charcoal. And I stood there just remembering the paradise from all those years ago, and now it was just dead. Everything was dead and black and silent.
Why are you wearing a necktie? You're not playing Kingdom Hall again, are you? No! Oh, good. I'm playing Circuit Overseer. Oh, what fresh hell is this? What? It's a lot of fun. Here, let me show you what I'm doing. I'd like to welcome you to the Godly Agony Summer District Convention. You recreated a district convention of Jehovah's Witnesses? Yep. Jehovah Bear, I'm begging you to get professional help. I'll pay for you to see a psychiatrist. Come on. This is wholesome recreation. I got the idea from Brother Watcher. Oh, I might have known. Look, do you want the tour or not? All right. Well, here we are. The Godly Agony District Convention. And below that we have our theme text presented on a banner, encouraging all to serve Jehovah with suffering. That seems really dismal. Well, it's scriptural. Just a reminder to be about our business with toiling. and keeping in fear and expectation of Jehovah's Day. Wait, I thought Jehovah's Day was going to come at an hour you do not expect. It will. Well, then how can Jehovah's Witnesses be eagerly expecting it all the time? How would that work? Well, it's both. You're going to be expecting it, and also it'll come when you don't expect. How can that work, though? What do you mean? I mean, like on the news, whenever there's a flood or an earthquake or a tsunami, Jehovah's Witnesses point to it as proof that Armageddon is about to happen. But on slow news days, when nothing's happening, they talk about the false sense of peace and security that Satan's world will have before Armageddon as proof of what they say. It's like a double bind. No matter what's happening, it proves them right. Are you okay? What's happening with you? Oh, I'm sorry, I had a small seizure. I'll just show you the seating chart here. At the this is the assembly hall. At the very top section, the very last rows, they have all the DF'd people sitting at the top of the convention center. That's really sad. Yep. Well, it's the punishment they pay for being failures. They're not really supposed to sit with their families. If they come in, the attendants will seat them at the very top, and just it's kind of an unwritten thing that they're just expected to go there and sit there. It seems mean. Oh no, you see, this is it's just a purifying thing that we have to keep Jehovah's congregated, the normal people at the convention and Kingdom Halls, we have to keep them clean. Just about keeping the convention clean, don't turn it into a meanness thing. It's like a leper colony. Well, at least they have each other. Oh no, the DF'd people are not supposed to talk to each other. Huh? When you're DF'd, you're not supposed to talk to other DF'd people, too, because that'd be Why? It's bad association. Yeah, but they're all bad association. I know, exactly. But you said it's like a leper colony where it's like they're mentally diseased, so you don't want them infecting the general population, but why can't they talk to each other? Well, just, something fishy about this whole thing. Directly seated below them, almost at the top row, but not at the very top, we have people slacking off. If you had a late night at the convention, probably on Friday night, having a good time with your friends, and you need to relax and take it easy during the session, well, you go to about the third row from the top, and, well, this brother has dark glasses on, so he'll be able to maybe get a few... Well, we have some other young brothers in their early 20s getting a few winks during the session. Here we have another brother that goes to the very top of the convention center so that he can spread out. And, he uses, later in the afternoon session, he'll take off his suit jacket and use it kind of as a cushion. Here in the midsection, we have the family seating. Typically, the families sit kind of in the middle rows of the convention center. Here we have some small children playing and causing a distraction. This little boy is sitting Indian style. And he's waving his arms. He'll get whipped later. Here we have the mother of the family. She's the matriarch. Sitting there worrying about the dinner arrangements for this evening when she should be listening to the program. Deciding between Applebee's or TGI Fridays. Which one will have more of her friends there? Will she be invited? And so forth. Oh. Here we have the father of the family, J.W. Mann, and he's very interested in the convention. He has his binoculars. He brings his binoculars every district convention. Why? Oh, so he can get a good view of the stage. But everyone can view the stage. Why would he need binoculars? In the front section, we have baptism candidates for the convention. They're just little kids. Yes! Typically between the ages of 10 and 13, you have about a dozen or so young people there, and then one alcoholic. Down here we have an obese person. At the very bottom floor level, we have a fat person that gets up during the program and slowly walks to the bathroom across the ground level, causing a unintentional distraction, but you're listening to the talk and everyone's looking at the stage, and we have a 300-pound person that begins waddling slowly, very slowly, to the restroom. It's about a 10-minute journey. Across the ground level too, we also have the seating for the handicapped and retarded. I didn't know there were so many retarded people on Earth. Very beautiful flower arrangements. And they're available after the convention on a donation basis. Seems like a lot of money for some potted flowers. Well, you know, Jehovah's just recouping his expenses. But wait, isn't all this stuff just donated anyway? Up here in the corner, we have brothers with their cameras set up on tripods. They're there at every convention, recording every second of it. Just silently sitting there, not with their families, not taking care of their families. They're kind of the AV team of the congregation. And they record 3 days of a Jehovah's Witness convention? Why? Who would go to their home and watch that? Here we have the people showing up late for the convention. They're about an hour late. Well, they may have been stuck in traffic or something, but they walked through the dusty parking lot carrying their coolers. Here we have the little one carrying their cooler too, and everyone looks at them. Everyone else is seated and looks in judgment at them as they climb the stairs looking for open seats, a row. They cause quite a commotion, and then they have to stumble across people to sit down. These people, they're leaving early. It's about 3:15 in the afternoon, but they're going to leave the convention early. They gather up their cooler and get their bags together, both of them. Why are they leaving, though? Oh, they have tummy aches. They're sick. They don't look sick. Oh, just a little stomach ache, nothing serious, but yeah, this brother is just going to watch TV in the hotel room, maybe go swimming. Swimming? And down here we have the men's restroom, in which the brothers are all standing there in a line, pissing into a giant trough. That's disgusting. Well, it's just, you know, at a convention center, you have the industrial-sized bathrooms with just a giant trough that everyone stands together and pisses into at the same time. It's like a soup. Over here we have a little boy that also wants to piss into the trough, except he can't lift it above the cusp. Up here we have the ladies' room. Wait, that's the line to the women's restroom? Yes. Well, it's different than... You don't understand. It's, how do I put this? They can't use urinals. They have to sit down on the toilet, so it takes much longer for women to do the restroom thing. Although, when you look at that line, it almost seems like it would be worth it to learn how to use a urinal. They could do it if they wanted to. Over here we have the baptism pool. And during the lunch period, all the young people are going to get into their swimming suits and wet t-shirts and get baptized in the pool there. It's a very special occasion, and people like to gather around the pool and watch. Why would you watch that? How could that be entertaining? Well, just as their family members. Here's a brother that, you know, he has his camera out. He must be related to one of the young people. He's going to take many, many photos of it. Why would you take photos of something like that? Who would look at it? Wait, does he have a boner? Up here we have the service desks. If you've ever walked through the hallways of a Jehovah's Witness assembly, you may have noticed there's tables. There's tables always set up in the hallways, being staffed by people. They do something, it's not clear what. But the tables are there, that's the important thing. And they have people with blank stares on their faces there to help if you needed something, but they probably can't do anything for you or wouldn't, or, well, here we have the vending machines. Oh, well, at least the JWs have that. Oh, you're not supposed to use them. You're not supposed to use the vending machines? No. You see, because the, that would be wrong. The money would go to the people, the worldly people that, you know, you don't want to give money to the worldly people. But you're renting the convention center, so worldly people are already getting the money. Well, yes, but you see, the brothers negotiated the price of the convention center, and also negotiated the price of the hotels and everything, you see, and but the people who run the concessions, the brothers didn't negotiate with them, so. You wanted to negotiate down the price of a candy bar? Here we have the nursing mother's room. Well, it's not really a room, it's a curtain. It's kind of like a shower rack that's set up, a curtain that women can walk behind and pull their breasts out and start feeding. This is in a giant convention center with multi-level seating, but they have a small curtain they can walk behind. They couldn't find a room for the women to go into? No, that would be, well, it's an access thing. It's very easy access. They could just walk to the side of the convention hall behind a curtain. And don't worry, it's staffed by an attendant who keeps the women safe and looks over them. Wait, why wouldn't they have a woman guarding the nursing mother's room? Well, it's the brothers have the privileges. And wait, does he have a boner? Is that the door? Who would come to our door? Good morning. We're just here in your neighborhood today doing a door-to-door preaching work. Oh, it's you. That's right. Jehovah your God. What are you doing here? Why do you have a suitcase? Oh, I'm going to be staying with you for a while. I've heard you're a bad boy. And guess what? I'm going to be keeping an eye on you. Huh? I said, I'm going to be keeping an eye on you. The JW identity is negative. Negative words and actions. Steadfast endeavor to stick to a list of rules. Hundreds of things you don't do. And it's a list that keeps increasing. They add to it every assembly. Even something that seems proactive, like going out door to door out in service, is also negative. In that you're telling the people at the doors, you have to stop doing what you're doing. You have to stop being who you are because it's wrong. I remember JWs that I would know, and we'd be out in service, and they'd be talking about how their goal in life is to be out in service when Armageddon is happening, so they can see the look on people's faces. I remember other JWs saying that they sometimes wish an insane householder would pull out a gun and kill them out in service, so that they would be martyred into Jehovah's Book of Life. And into the upcoming yearbook. I remember this guy at the hall named Leon. Oh boy, he was a strange duck. Leon would come to the magazine counter and get upwards of 200 copies of every magazine. Every Watchtower and Awake would come out. He'd order 180, 200 of them that he would just take with him, and he said that his whole family and kids were pioneers, except nobody ever saw them out in service. But they were pioneers. They did it after school. They pioneered walking home from school. And, well, I just wondered about him. What did he do with all those magazines? Just walk into a laundromat and set them all down there? Well, probably. Was the whole purpose of it so that he could be seen by other Jehovah's Witnesses walking away from the magazine counter with a big stack of magazines? Well, we might be in the ballpark there too. I have been indoors with JWs that'll stand there with a householder, be having a 20-minute conversation with them, and then when they return to the car, without even talking about or mentioning the householder's eternal life prospects, instead they immediately begin talking about the experience they had at the door, their experience and how they can share it with others. And they get their slip of paper out and they get their call book and begin writing down, not writing down ideas for the householder's salvation. They begin writing down details of the encounter itself, having in mind that moment when the microphone at the Kingdom Hall gets handed to them, and they get the honor and privilege of relaying that experience for everyone at the hall, and well, it's a very uplifting moment. The irony being that if you're a woman who gets a really good call, you're expected to turn it over to an elder's wife or a pioneer sister. It's a status thing. That's the other thing about JW life. It's a constant reorienting. You always have to resituate yourself as that lowliness of mind, and it's part of the caste and class system of Jehovah's Witnesses. There is an unwritten rule in your JW life that if something good happens to you, it's rare, but if something good does come your way, well, you're supposed to hand it over to your superiors. Well, the people that are better than you. And you may have noticed this at meetings and assemblies. District conventions. They never have weak ones on stage. Because why would they? No weak ones. People at the hall. Well, the Kingdom Halls are full of people who are broken and sad. But those aren't the ones you see at the convention parts. Because... well, I don't know. Well, they're the least among you, but for some reason they never make it to the first place. They can't be up front there because they didn't earn it. You see, you have to earn your place in Jehovah's organization with accomplishments. Notable and referable accomplishments. In fact, whenever one of these JW winners takes the stage at the convention to give experiences about how their life is turning out and how it all worked out so well for them, they begin by introducing him with his accomplishments and credentials, like it's a resume. They say, Keith Bagwell has been serving for 8 years as a regular pioneer with his wife in the Sunny Terrace congregation. They'll have the little kids. They'll have little boys and girls with suits and dresses on, standing there with their microphones, standing silently, staring ahead with their microphones in hand, too. Well, they're waiting to tell how the little ones, they brought up the conversation of Jehovah at the lunch table at school. It'll be encouraging for all of us to hear. Those parts are especially appreciated. You may have noticed after a while that at conventions, whenever they do the little skits and reenactments of actual events that really happened, by the way, those sandbox conversations that first graders have about Jehovah, they'll reenact it, but it's always done with the same people over and over again, year after year. The popular families and their friends. And they'll even be used over and over in the same summer series of conventions. They'll go from, convention to convention. I've even known unpopular people who asked if they could be in the drama. And they were told, well, no, we already have the people picked out to do that. And they'd say, yeah, but it's the same people as last year. Well, they're going to be in it again this year. Well, it doesn't really sound like a religious experience. It doesn't make sense to them. But when you present it all as a multi-level salespeople doing their type of thing, well, then all the little puzzle pieces make sense. And it's a trade-off. Some people really attach themselves to that style and structure of an organization, a business structure with positions and merit badges, the district convention badges. Well, you have at the hall, you have those guys that say, oh, I'm doing the sound. Oh, well, I'm doing the microphones this week. And, some guys just leap at that stuff. I just never was one of them. I remember back in the 80s, my dad had this friend, and he was always saying, if I wasn't in the truth, I'd join the army. And he would say that he would just blurt this out all the time. And one day I said back to him, you'd be in the army? Killing people? Oh, I didn't mean like that. I'd have a desk job. Well, some JWs are just wired that way. And for them, you realize it's not even about morals or Bible. They're not really Bible enthusiasts or Bible people. It's more about the being somewhere, having a place where you fit and going into those motions, being part of the movement. There is also a superficialism. Is that a word? A superficial quality to the whole thing. They teach you in the organization that being superficial is being religious. Because Jehovah himself is superficial. A superficial and shallow being. And that by proxy, his followers serve him with emphasis placed on appearances, presentations, and demonstrations, and that Jehovah, in fact, cares more about these things than your feelings or something bad happening to you. They'll even tell you that you having problems, quote unquote, in your life doesn't benefit the society, so don't do it. Jehovah rewards phoniness. He loves phonies for some reason. I remember in the 1990s, there was this guy that from the moment he would walk into the Kingdom Hall, he had this huge, permanent smile on his face. This Jack Nicholson as the Joker, giant, unnatural, ungodly smile. Insane looking smile. And after a while, and this was every meeting, every time. Eventually, he got to the point where I guess he felt that that insane smile wasn't enough. And so he began smiling with his mouth wide open, like he was screaming with happiness at every moment, and never even blinking. His eyes were as wide as dinner plates, and he would just have this screaming roller coaster look on his face at all times. And instead of people saying, this man has a problem, they promoted him to substitute overseer. Well, I guess he put on that new personality. You know, the one you change into to become eligible for paradise. You take off your own actual personality, which sucks, and you do a put on. You put on the new personality, which makes you rightly disposed for everlasting life. And it's worth it to live forever, right? It's the only way. The new personality is a genericness. The Watchtower tells you to strive for. A watering down and diluting of all characteristics not organization related. It's a quest of sorts to appear above reproach and free from accusation and disrepute. You know, one of the requirements for ministerial servants is to be blameless. Because there is such a thing, by the way. And this is real. They don't, when you're going to be eligible for ministerial service, they don't ask you if you've done something wrong. They ask you, can anyone in the congregation blame you for anything? Because we need you to be blameless. Well, you know, JW men who beat their families don't lose privileges. They're given more privileges. Because people say, oh, that's a strong brother. He keeps his household under control. What? He does. I knew a JW lady at the hall that she was having these health problems. And she was mounting up these giant medical expenses. And so she turned to the local brothers for help out of desperation. And they said to her that they are not obligated to help her. And so she should write to the society. Well, she did. And the society wrote back to her and said their obligation is to accomplish the preaching work. But she can turn to the local brothers for help. Well, you see how that works. Everything with JWs comes down to obligation versus non-obligation. They think they have this formula down. You see, for Kingdom Hall people, things like field service and going in the meetings are requirements. But something like giving to the needy is not a requirement. And therefore not as important. And so when you're a JW, you know, kind of skate by without ever doing it. Because it's a good thing to do, you just never do it. Because really it could only take away from your free time and the more important things that are obligatory. And if you go to the Kingdom Hall, it's full of this kind of attitude. You're going to meet a lot of JWs with this kind of self-assured, I've got it all figured out attitude, and you can just see it. You just see it written on their faces when you turn. Hey, if you're at the meeting, turn around, look behind you. You're going to see some very arrogant looks on some people's faces. I call them the mustache people. These big fat mustache guys and their families and their pig wives. They have wives. You'll notice them. They have wives that look like hogs, and they're the mustache people. Unproductive in service, inefficient in the ministry. Sometimes it seems all they care about is saying, well, I tried, Jehovah, now give me my reward. Concerning themselves only with being able to say they followed the rules. We followed the rules, Jehovah. No, we didn't save any souls, but we followed the rules. We did the minimum service requirements. Doesn't seem like they're actually making an actual effort to teach anyone or help them or save their lives, but, well, I guess they did the rules. I remember this married couple at the Kingdom Hall that would do, every Saturday they would do not-at-homes. But I always wondered, well, where do you get the not-at-homes? Because you got to do actual territory. You got to do the hard territory first to get the not-at-homes, right? Well, maybe somebody gave them the not-at-homes, I guess. But they would, and this was every Saturday. This wasn't a one-time thing. Every Saturday, they would go out in the country and do, it wasn't just not-at-homes, it was rural not-at-homes. And they would drive around outside of town, except here's the thing. They wouldn't even go up to the houses. They would, I guess they would go to these houses out in the country that were not at home all the time, and then they would slowly drive by and say, we don't see any cars there. No, they're not at home. We'll mark it down as not at home again. And they would go do this for an hour and a half, drive back into town, gas up their car, then, go to a dentist office, leave 4 magazines, count their morning in service, count their time. It's almost a hedonism when you think about it. And the governing body's the same way. What? They are. Governing body. You see them on TV now. By the way, they're on TV. They're on CNN Australia. I turn it on. And you may have noticed they seem to have, at times, almost an indifference towards householders, worldly people, and humanity in general. Every time there's some court case that's on TV now and a governing body member appears, they seem to have this very openly, we're not your friends attitude towards it's a combative thing. The leaders of the Jehovah's Witness religion are almost openly hostile and combative towards worldly people that are strangers. And they have this very, we're not trying to help you attitude, and you are the enemy. And the people that are sitting there in the courtroom or watching on TV are wondering, wait, how could you be doing a ministry for the world when you don't care what happens to them? It's just that whole, well, molested children are not our problem, it's your problem. It's not our obligation. The governing body, quote unquote, well, they govern, and they're a body. They judge, they're very judgmental towards not only the world, but their own members. They're worse. That's the thing about them. They're worse to their own members, and they're not even good to worldly people, but then they persecute their own membership. You remember Jesus, how he was always the don't worry about it guy, and let me wash your feet, and well, we'll just all forgive each other. Well, that was the old way of doing things. Now we're in the governing body era, and it's just an onslaught. They constantly are at war against their own underlings. However, when it comes to their giant screw-ups and wrongdoings, you may have heard of some of them. One of them is called 1,000 pedophiles in Australia that, oops, we didn't report to anyone. They don't get punished for these things or ever even show any remorse. And when you bring it up to a JW, they'll say, oh, well, it doesn't matter because they do so much good. So it cancels that out. And even if they do anything wrong, Jehovah will sort it out later. Well, I guess. But you may wonder sometimes, though, where did this line of demarcation come from where it doesn't matter what the important JWs do? Well, it matters what the little ones do. When somebody suspects them of having sex, well, we have to follow them. And all, but who's following these guys around? Well, it doesn't work that way. And you just wonder, where did this imaginary line in the sand come from where, oh, well, we have to follow you around, but don't worry about what we do? Where does it begin and end? Is there a hard line there, or does it kind of drift over? What scripture did this come from? Well, we don't talk about that. The leadership of Jehovah's organization is pretty much like Jehovah himself, in that everything they give you or promise to give you is imaginary, but everything they demand back from you is very real. The quick build Kingdom Hall projects are a nice example. You have these volunteers. Oh, have you ever been to a Kingdom Hall project? You have dozens or hundreds of these volunteers working their guts out for 12 hours a day, and when it's over, they have nothing to show for it. Their life isn't any better, and, well, no one else's life is really any better either. Kingdom Hall just got, I don't know, a new fascia on it or something. And that's the way everything is in the organization. It's like you pay them to work for them for free. Every Kingdom Hall build season is the same. It begins the same. They come out with a list of perfectly okay buildings. Look, have you ever seen a Kingdom Hall that was about to buy? I mean, you go to Kingdom Halls, they're just buildings. They're not that old. The religion's not that old. It's only been around 100 years. These buildings can't really be falling apart. They have a list of buildings that are seemingly okay, but they're going to tear them down and rebuild them again. Because for some reason, Jehovah's Witnesses got to have that brand new stuff around them at the end of the world. I just cannot ever remember a single year when they ever got caught up on the regional building committee. There never was, I don't remember a single time when they say, you know what? We're fine. The Kingdom Halls we have now are fine. We don't need new ones. We don't need your donations. We don't need you to drive 100 miles away with your hammer and to do free work for us, because especially this close to Armageddon, it's just so much more important to go out in service than to do superficial changes to our buildings. Let's just use the time we have to go out in service instead, because these buildings will work fine. We have a roof over our head. We're not going to get rained on, and it'll be all right. Well, maybe next year that'll happen. I remember about 10 years ago in Kansas City, in this upscale neighborhood of Kansas City, they had a Kingdom Hall they built that cost $2 million. You heard me right. A Kingdom Hall with a $2 million price tag that was recommended by the society, which the congregation would open well, they'd have to pay for. And I remember people said, oh, well, it has to be fancy to, fit in with the neighborhood. Since when did Jehovah's people care about fitting in anywhere with anyone? Oh, well, it's different for a building. Well, we need a $2 million place for our asses to set on. Well, we learned about Jehovah. I remember JWs at the Kingdom Hall that 15 minutes into the meeting would get up, walk to the bathroom, and take the longest dump in history during the meeting. The meeting's 2 hours long, right? You just came from your house and you're just going to go back to your house. You get to the Kingdom Hall during the talk, you get up and go take a 35-minute dump. I know we're supposed to empty ourselves out as vessels, but I don't think that's what Jehovah meant. I remember people that on Sunday would be sitting in the back row with little pens or pencils, just very slyly studying their watchtower during the watchtower. Like we didn't know what they were doing. Like nobody turned around and could see their little eyes darting back and forth from the thing. Well, they're doing it. I remember people going to the restroom during the song and marking their watchtower. They'd go in there with a magic marker they'd sit on the toilet and mark their watchtower so it looked like they studied when other people looked over their shoulder. It's the perfect crime. And, well, yes, nobody can see me in the restroom. Jehovah doesn't see. These restroom walls are it's like lead with Superman can't see through. And, well, yes, Jehovah can see me doing this in the restroom, but he understands my shortcomings. But the brothers and sisters don't. I have recollections of after the meeting being at Pizza Hut with a table of Jehovah's Witnesses talking in our occult speak and lingo, the secret language of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's all a secret world and the secret life, and we'd be talking in this kingdom hall, talking about disfellowshipped people and everything. And then the waitress would walk up, or some people would sit down next to us, and immediately we'd have to shh, and then go back to normal speak. We'd switch from Jehovah speak to normal speak, because that's a secret. It's like there's two sides of the coin. Well, there's the secret world of Jehovah and the way we talk, but we don't want people to overhear. Why not just stand up in the middle of the restaurant and share with everyone there our same wonderful hope of living forever? After all, we're so close to the end of the world. Why not every building you walk into just announce and tell everyone about the kingdom hope? Why do you have to do it from door to door when nobody's at home and you only speak to them for 30 seconds and you don't even tell them about this wonderful hope of living forever? Why not walk into your classroom every morning, walk into your job, everywhere you go, walk into the friggin' grocery store and announce to people Jehovah's kingdom? Because that's what you're supposed to do on the front of the watchtower, right? It's announcing Jehovah's kingdom. Then announce it. Walk down the street announcing it. Hey, you may look crazy, but the payoff is that everyone gets to live forever, right? Even if one person gets to live forever for 1 trillion years, wouldn't it be worth it? How come you're not going to do it? I remember service mornings where people had been up playing games or something the night before, or staying out, so they were tired, half asleep people winging it at doors with half memorized presentations that almost imitations of themselves giving presentations. It's almost like they're doing an impression of a Jehovah's Witness. They just do this really hackneyed, half-hearted, quote-unquote presentation at a door where they, good morning, we're doing a service work today, and they'd reach into their bags without realizing there's nothing in there. They ran out of magazines, and they'd reach there, pull something out, nothing was in there. Well, maybe the householder thought I was doing something else. I remember people at doors pulling out the magazines without looking at the magazines first. They didn't even know what they were just doing their generic pretend presentation, and then they pull out the stained up, wrinkled literature from 3 years ago. They pull out magazines that are doggy-eared, maybe even their study copy that had writing, and they wrote things to themselves, wrote phone numbers and grocery lists on the back of them, and then handing them to the householder. And the householder said, "Oh, the date on this is 2003? Well, that's a back issue. The information is still current." I remember in the Jehovah's organization being surrounded by people all the time, never being alone, but always feeling alone, because it was like a wasteland of non-friends. These people invented unfriending before Facebook. It's the world of unfriends. And I tried to have friends. I just could never find anyone. I really did make an earnest effort, though. I invested a lot of time into people. I bought things for people. I tried to be there for people. It's just, no matter what I could do, I just seemed like I never meant anything. I could never be special to anyone or have that sort of loyalty or, that real thing. It's the Badlands area of South Dakota, and this one summer people did their vacations up there to do a week of unassigned territory, and I was one of the last people to leave, was driving home from this territory, and coming down the highway, probably 9 o'clock at night, and it's a construction area or whatever. This orange cone gets swept up by the wind, rolls under my car. I drive right over it. It cuts my fuel line. I pull over to the side of the road. I'm leaking gas. I put a bucket, and I had some container in the back of my car. I put it under there to try to save the gas. Well, I remember I'm in the western corner of Nebraska, middle of nowhere, but by happy coincidence, my pioneer partner from when I was younger lives nearby because he got married to this Nebraska girl, and I call him on the phone and tell him I need his help, and he said, we have the in-laws over tonight. And I said, I'm 45 minutes away from you. I'm on a highway in the middle of nowhere. And he said, we just finished dinner. We're sitting and talking, but yeah, man. And then he hung up. This was my pioneer partner from 1998 to 2000. We spent virtually every day for 3 years sitting in a car together. He wouldn't drive 45 minutes to save my life. Literally, this isn't a figurative thing. He literally left me for dead in the wilderness. Well, it's Jehovah. Anyway, I found some duct tape in my trunk, and I spliced my fuel line back together. I poured this bucket of just gasoline into there, and I just crippled my way an hour and a half later to the nearest gas station. 2 days later, I'm waiting for the phone to ring. This guy didn't even check on me. This guy didn't even call me the next morning to see if I was still alive or still sitting out there in the middle of nowhere waiting for a car to come along. Waiting for a Samaritan to come along. When you're an ex-JW, you're supposed to make a big smiling video talking about how you're happier than ever, and leaving Jehovah's organization was the best decision you ever made because you're happy now and everything got fixed. Well, truth is, the outside world is even worse. What? It is. I know, it's not PC. You're not supposed to say it right. Everything they tell you at the Kingdom Hall about the outside world is true. It's a dark and empty place. It's horrible. It's full of dirty people that are trying to rob your car. What? They are. Worldly people are fierce, without love of goodness, having no natural affection or fear of God. All they care about is their cigarettes, lottery tickets, standing outside of gas stations in their smelly clothes. I hate them. Just kidding. I know that the thing is, you're supposed to, I know, you're supposed to say, oh, becoming a worldly person was the best thing that ever happened to me. Well, I've never successfully integrated into the world. And maybe you haven't either. I just have a small band of outsiders, I guess, that I'm friends with, and I think there's just a small number of people that never fit into either world, and we're just kind of in that, netherworlds area there. I have, thankfully, the good thing that happened in my life, my girlfriend, she is greatest thing that ever happened to me. I'd fall apart without her. She is the one person I have that understands me. It's just an unconditional thing that she just takes care of me. I live almost in a paralyzing fear that life is meaningless and amounts to nothing. I have a hyper-awareness that just plagues me all the time. I call it the big drop-off it came in life, because when you're a JW, you always believe that you have a happy ending coming to you. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter, because you're going to live forever anyway. There's trillions of years, and Jehovah solves all your problems. when you realize that that's not really going to happen, and that each day's micro decisions are like a butterfly effect of reaction and consequence, and that eventually one of them will lead to something cataclysmic, and eventually even result in the big sleep, if you know what I mean. This fear of death and life has inhibited me to the point that I won't get on a plane. I don't want to drive into cities. I don't want to go into buildings. A little something about me. I'm a very, very silly man. Anyway, I just wouldn't make it without her. And I hope you all, I have the love of my life. I hope you all have found yours. If you are one of those happy, quote-unquote, XJWs that dances in the video, if you're one of the happy XJWs, well, brothers and sisters, I am happy for you. I really am. And all I can tell you is enjoy it while it's gonna last. Because the end is coming. At an hour you do not think it to be. Your little family you have, your little life you've carved out for yourself, hold on to it tight. As tight as you can, because truly I say to you, not a stone will be left upon a stone. And its ruination will befall you like the draining of the Euphrates. XJW to XJW, I am telling you. Satan and his demons, they're coming for you. This world is coming for you.
Jehovah Bear, you seem agitated about something. No, I am. I have issues. Not happy about. Why are you still wearing a tie?
Oh, I'm pretending to be a governing body member today. Oh. Which one? Brother Greenlease? Wait, the child molester? Anyway, it's about your house guest, Jehovah. He's been eating my mashed potato. Your mashed potato? Mm-hmm. I had a big plate of mashed potato with country gravy in the kitchen, and I left for 5 seconds, and when I was gone, he ate it all up. Took it into the TV room and ate it for himself. I'm sick of it. Yeah, I'm not crazy about him either, but, you know, he's a house guest here. Well, you've got to do something. I want you to have a word with him. All right. Do you really like the tie? Hey, Jehovah. Hey, buddy! You're blocking the TV. Oh, also, I need to use your computer again. Got to order some Papa John's online with your credit card. Yeah, it's about the computer. I was needing to talk to you for a minute. You know what? You're going to start bitching at me? All right, let's hear it. You know, I don't mind you using the computer, but I looked at the search history from last night. You've been looking at some really sick stuff. Well, a man has needs. You're not a man, Jehovah. Well, I just know what I like. Yeah, well, I looked at your search history and you spent all night watching when animals attack videos over and over again. That's the kind of violence I don't approve of in this house. What? Those are my creations. I gave all those creatures claws and teeth and have them kill each other millions of times a day. They rip each other to pieces, and I sit back in heaven and watch it. A big tub of popcorn. That's what I do. I create animals to kill each other. It's who I am. You need to trust me. I just keep hearing you say over and over again, we're supposed to trust you, but you never explain why. What do you mean? Jehovah, you never tell us who created you or where you come from. All you ever say is that we're supposed to believe you, but you don't tell us why. You know, your life would be a lot easier if you just relaxed and believed like everyone else. You're too stressed out all the time, man. I'm just trying to help you. Look, all I know is your behavior around here has got to change or else... Or else what? You'll fly into the future with Brother Fancy and blow me up? Oh, you didn't think I knew about that, did you? Yeah, I know about it. I'm God, bitch. Well, I've got news for you. When the future rolls around this time, it ain't gonna go down that way.
This time, I'm gonna be ready for you.
Huh?
I said, I'm gonna be ready for you, bitch.
Well, Jehovah is an all-powerful being, of course. There is one handicap he does have, though, which is being able to communicate normally. He can't do it for some reason. It's just something he has difficulty with. It's always a roadblock for him. He's not able to conversate back and forth in a usual fashion the way that you and I do. Well, he's able to do it, of course. He just can't because of how clean he is. I'm so clean, you see. And that's why I'm like a disfellowship person. It's like a reverse disfellowshipping. Jehovah is up there in the sky, but he's like a disfellowship person sitting in the back row of the hall. We can't interact with him. He can't talk to any of us. Even though we're his best friends and created in his image. Well, I just can't talk to you, though. Jehovah does communicate, however. He is able to get messages to us just non-verbally. He does it in kind of a passive-aggressive way through his actions. It's like worshiping a volcano god. You know when he's been angered. You can tell when he's angry because things start to go wrong for you. Or misfortunes start happening to people in the congregation. And, well, the elders and the elders' wives are able to reason out at that point that someone must be secretly sinning. And they start working to get to the bottom of it. And that's why the hall keeps having problems. Well, at that point, then they know that Jehovah has withdrawn his Holy Spirit. He did it without telling anyone. He does this silently and then gives you a few weeks to let you realize his displeasure. He causes problems. He goes around causing mischief, and then gives you a few weeks or a few months to try to guess what he's angry about or who he's angry at. And then the elders' wives or the elders, they'll do investigations, try to figure out who has been sinning in the hall, and then take action. And that's how he gets things done. Jehovah also uses his human containers, the elders, to communicate things to us from the stage. Like when he wants magazine placements to go up or needs more donation money. Well, at that point, he's got a lot to say. And he will communicate it through very detailed talk outlines at that point. Then he's very, very meticulous and precise about what he wants. But other times when it's just a general thing, then he communicates like the Frankenstein monster through some grunts. You know, just kind of a feeling he puts out there. But in the magazines and talks, he's very, very detailed. Jehovah seems to be incapable of loving humans without getting something in return. And vice versa, of course. I mean, realistically, how many JWs would be going to the hall if there wasn't a payoff coming to them? Think about it. Oh, they'd go to the meetings, all right. They'd meet 3 times a week to flip Jehovah off. After all, we're talking about Jehovah. The guy that sat there through the whole 1975 thing and didn't say a word. Didn't lift a finger. He just sat back in his chair with a big smile on his face for 9 years. The 1975 prophecy began in 1966. He sat back in his chair for 9 years and watched it all like his favorite TV show week after week. His people scrambling around, going crazy, selling their houses, quitting their jobs, taking their kids out of school, and Jehovah sat there and watched it all silently. He could have just said one word or communicated one thing. He didn't do it. And you know all those JWs that sold their houses and ruined their lives. You know that those people prayed to Jehovah, right, for his guidance and direction. At every meeting they prayed, correct, for years? Probably prayed every morning before they left the house. Probably sat by their kid's bed and prayed every night. They prayed to Jehovah every day, correct? Yeah, I just wanted to re-clarify for that for you in case you forgot. Jehovah is also the guy who created the tree in the middle of the garden, knowing that it's very easy for humans to sin. They're very frail and fragile. They're like babies standing on the edge of their cradle, ready to fall. And Jehovah knows this about humans. They're not imperfect, but they're just immediately capable of doing imperfect things at any time. Well, Jehovah, the guy who created the universe, knowing Murphy's Law, that if something can happen, it eventually will happen, given enough time, especially trillions of years of living forever. But it never occurred to him at any time, that at any time in trillions of years, someone would eat a piece of fruit off that tree. He never thought about it. Never thought what would happen after it. Jehovah, he's the guy that sets you up for inevitable failure, and then blames you for not relying on him more than you did. He just likes it that way. He likes to give you unreasonable hour quotas and magazine goals and requirements for meetings. Then he sits back and watches you do irrational, irresponsible things for you and your family to meet these goals. And you'll scramble around like a madman for months or even years, and then when you finally fall apart or give up, he'll act hurt and let down. He has to rethink whether to let you live forever because you didn't come through for him. Jehovah! Well, that's our Jehovah. He's happy, angry, sad, and jealous all at the same time. And disappointed, and needy, and greedy, and boastful, and everything else, all at once. He's just a mixture of all those emotions at the exact same moment, all over the earth at the exact same time. After all, he is Jehovah of armies. Jehovah, the army god. He's very proud of his destructive power and abilities. He spends a lot of time bragging about it to us. But you do wonder sometimes, what's going to happen to him when he doesn't have anything for his army to do? When he starts getting bored? You're always worried about they're always talking about, whoa, what are people going to do with the paradise? What happens when they get bored? I'm more scared of what he's going to do. When there's nothing for him to blow up. When there's nothing for him to shoot fire and lightning at. No way for him to show off his military strength that he brags about every page of the Bible. Well, is he going to be like Yosemite Sam when there's no Bugs Bunny? What's he going to do without Satan? He's having an identity crisis. Yeah, Yosemite Sam would probably pull out his 6-shooter, blow his brains out. How long until Jehovah blows his brains out? All he has to do is, he just sits there in the universe looking at people planting flowers. Well, by the way, how long until his paradise people start resenting him? You know it's going to happen. Whoa, we're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, right? We're talking about the people at the Kingdom Hall. How long until they start murmuring against the elders and the elders' wives? We're talking about those people, right? Oh, I'm sure they'll last trillions of years without turning against Jehovah, becoming ungrateful. Jehovah and that's his robot army. He commands them to be robotical, go through robotical motions. They're like robots that are also filled with emptiness and pain and regret and sadness. But he'll fix that in their minds. Jehovah, after all, he is the mightiest being in the universe, and he's very conceited about it. And he loves bragging about it. Loves to brag. But it's okay for him. It's wrong for us. We are created in his image, and it'd be wrong for us to do, but he loves it, and loves doing it. And we appreciate it. But Jehovah, our mighty God, for some reason keeps doing things that seem to be beneath him, or beneath any invincible being. Things like getting gag orders against children, molested children. For some reason, he keeps intimidating victims and their families, threatening to disfellowship them. He keeps getting out of court settlements against molested children. Things that don't seem to be in the same range of dignity for a super being. But Jehovah, it's like the battles of the old in the Bible, except these times he loses about half the time. It's different. We're in a different time. Yes, Jehovah loses now. What? It's he lets Satan win. Well, we're in a different time. We're in Satan's world. Jehovah is not above using the silent treatment to get his way. He's not above the passive-aggressive silent act that he does, like when lovers quarrel. That's what DFing is. It's breaking an individual's willpower through sheer force, and it's the waiting game. He's not above using bully tactics to compel you into serving him, not above nudging and prodding you. He has no qualms about forcing loyalty out of people with coercion and guilt tripping, especially young people. You got baptized when you were 12. Don't you forget it. You owe Jehovah, Billy. He's not above playing mind games, using mind games on children, using trick questions, dangling carrots with strings attached. He's not above using slippery legal words to wiggle out of a jam when things don't seem fair to you. Well, he gets away with it. He's not above playing favorites at the Kingdom Hall, having favorite people that are popular. Not above heckling people with different beliefs. He loves doing that in talks. He's not above begging for money when he needs it or doesn't need it. He loves to get that money and ride the Google wave with it. He likes to play the stock market and do hedge funds with money that he asked from you. He likes employing double standards. He's a god of double standards. Whenever the JWs are going to do something to you at the hall, like a judicial action or have a judicial meeting, the elders always say, well, you understand, this isn't personal. It's just congregation business. Yes, it may seem biased to you that we've known you all these years, now we're going to judge you, but we're just doing the congregation business. So don't get personal. But when you make an impersonal observation or criticism of the religion in general, they flip the script and say, how could you? Is this how you're going to repay Jehovah's kindnesses? Well, that's just how Jehovah works it. Jehovah likes to use a lot of peer pressure. When you're not living right or fulfilling your commitments to him, well, then he uses his minions to convey a sense of being let down. Jehovah will send out his robots to give you the look. It's a passive-aggressive look. The adults do it with a lot of teenagers who fall away. Prolonged eye contact when they see you. A look of being disappointed and perplexed with a touch of puppy dog eyes when they see you, to let you know that they're confused and let down at how you're not living the truth. When your mother sees you and gives you that look of sadness for not coming through for Jehovah, they'll communicate Jehovah's feeling on the matter with a crestfallen look on their face at you. Jehovah's also a big fan of negative reinforcement, as in yielding more profitable results through the technique of discouragement and whip cracking. Well, I remember going to the annual Pioneer meeting one year and expecting to be commended, expected to be thanked for doing a year of volunteer work completely free with our own gas and money and time and vehicles, and instead learning that we were going to be chastised because Jehovah had moved the goalposts on us mid-year without telling us, and therefore we didn't meet our goals, and they were very disappointed in us. They also accused us from the stage of having hidden sins. They reasoned and rationalized this out, that the reason our Bible studies and magazine placements were so low is because some of us must be secretly sinning. Some of us must be living double lives, and so they just let us know that. Jehovah also likes to send you door to door condemning people to death. Here, think about this. You are playing part in executions of people. Think about it. You are directly, indirectly part of that person's death when you knock on their door. Look, if you refuse to go out in service, well, the stones would have to cry out, right? If you just crossed your arms and said, sorry, Jehovah, I'm not going out in service, well, Jehovah said, well, I'll make the stones cry out. Ha, 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 ha. But think about it. If a stone started talking and saying that Jehovah's Witnesses was a true religion, wouldn't membership skyrocket? It'd be on YouTube. Oh, they'd have hundreds of millions of people join Jehovah's Witnesses. You know they would. Well, then why are you doing it the wrong way? Put your foot down and tell Jehovah to make the stones cry out, because then a lot more people are going to get to live forever. Isn't that what you want? Be much more convincing than ramshackle salesmen go into the door with some tired magazine that they're not even enthusiastic about. You can't buy a return visit these days. Well, think about it. What if every JW on Earth just refused to do the preaching work? No more going out and service Jehovah. Well, yes, they would die. But, yes, the 7 million Jehovah's Witnesses would die. But the 7 billion worldly people Jehovah would have to let them into paradise on a technicality. And wouldn't that be more loving if you're a Jehovah's Witness? Yes, you would die, but by ratio, for every one of you that dies, 1,000 worldly people get to live forever. Well, isn't that more humane? And aren't you in fact working with Jehovah, because isn't that what Jehovah wants, for all to attain eternal life? Well, this seems like the right way to do it. Don't do the preaching work. Everyone gets to go into the paradise, and then how many people are seriously not going to be Jehovah's Witnesses in the paradise? Show me where my math is wrong. Jehovah really likes to use the fear techniques. This is a personal favorite. He likes to inspire fear in people. It gives them that really great feeling. Except the problem is most worldly people don't pay any attention to him. He's silly to them. So he spends most of his time and effort saber rattling at his own people, his own little sheep. Because they're much easier to scare. All his sheep are sitting there during the convention program wondering who in their family is going to make it through the end of the system. And you see a lot of people dab away tears. A lot of mothers you see women start crying during the sessions, thinking about their disfellowshipped children. Jehovah's people, always living in careful fear, never to slip up and make that mistake at the last moment before Armageddon that dashes their chances for the paradise hope. They lose out on eternal life. It's constant fear of Jehovah's Witnesses, that last-minute sin. The assemblies are filled with guilty minds, reviewing their sins silently as they listen to the talks, plotting ways to counterbalance and neutralize them, alkaline them with increased field service and donations. It's just a secret plan, a list they go through in their mind of how they will. But Monday morning, they'll rectify their life and get back with Jehovah. Jehovah teaches his people that faith is fear, and fear is faith. By the way, I myself am also a person of strong faith. I have the assured expectation that nothing will ever happen. It's just a faith I have about Jehovah, just because I know him so well. I have that strong faith that he will never show himself or do anything. Well, I'm just kidding. I actually believe in a reverse Armageddon. The JWs die and everyone else lives forever. I'm joking. Jehovah, our God. He doesn't just instill fear. He is fear. Fear of the future, literally. You see, neuroscientists now hypothesize that as an individual grows and becomes able to forecast their own dissolution into death, tremendous anxiety is generated, and a certain concept emerges which allows that emotion to be reduced. It's called sense-present stimulation, a small set of brain cells in the right temporal lobe responsible for convincing the mind that something eternal and omnipresent is watching over us invisibly. It's incredible. They've isolated this part of the brain. They can use lasers to make people see God, see dead relatives. Neurologists now believe that the God experience is a necessary part of the human evolutionary model. Belief in a problem-solving superbeing helps alleviate that pressure of daily life and the difficulties facing our limitations as mortals. It was very interesting. They had this demonstration they did. They conducted this experiment with 12 people, and they had them set at computers. And they just went into this, room with PCs set there, and the people just had their mouses and they're clicking, answering multiple choice questions for 2 or 3 hours. And then afterwards, they showed them the computer monitor. They put on white noise, just static. And they had them watch it for about 10 minutes, and then they said, well, what does it mean to you? And all 12 of them said nothing. It's just static. Well, next they had 12 different people come in and sit at the computers, and they did the same thing. They spent about 3 hours answering very basic multiple choice questions. But this time, it was different. They rigged the computers where even when they got these questions right, a giant red screen would pop up saying they got the answers wrong. Like 80% of the time, they were these very simple questions, but the computer kept telling them that they were wrong. They were wrong, and it went on for 3 hours. And when it was finished, again, they showed the people 10 minutes of white static on their screen. And this time, 10 out of the 12 people said that they could see an image of God or Jesus or UFOs. Anyway, this demonstration seemed to show that the right hemisphere of the human mind will devise an escape option to cope with the frustration of repeated failure, leading many scientists to conclude that God, quote unquote, could just be something we invent to chase away responsibility and reality. A stubborn refusal to concede we don't really know what's going on. We're not in control. A refusal to admit to ourselves that we are ultimately in life helpless and doomed and at the mercy of random events. The Bible says that God is love. I believe that God is not love, because there's no such thing as God and no such thing as love. Love is also an imaginary illusion created by our brain receptors as part of the evolutionary process. Love may be a notion that you hold dear, but in evolutionary terms, it's just two people sticking together to increase likelihood of survival. That bond of attraction may be a very stirring emotion for you, but it's not real. It's a chemical reaction in people's brains. It doesn't even have to do with people or other people. Women will leave their husbands for a wealthier man. It's a survival. It's not about love. It's a survival thing. It's part of their genetic makeup. A husband can be married to a woman for 20 years, but if the option of a younger woman comes along, it's a procreation thing. You can't even be mad at the people because it's in their DNA. We are all creatures fulfilling our needs. Jehovah's Witnesses are taught to believe that love never fails. According to 1 Corinthians 13:8, I'm explaining to you why love usually fails, or perhaps even always fails. Because it doesn't exist.
Jehovah Bear, what are you doing? What? You're loading up your timecraft with your stuff? What's going on? I'm leaving you. Leaving me? Gonna move in with Brother Watcher and live with him now. Brother Watcher? Huh? Grass is greener over there. But he's a bad guy. You'd leave me for a bad guy? Well, he's offering me Papa John's. I get Papa John's for you. Look, don't make this harder than it is. We had some good times together, but just need to let go now. Let go? But you're my best friend. How would I do that? I don't know. Figure something out. But we both promised that we'd stay together forever. It's just something people say. It's not real. It was real to me. Look, you'll be fine without me. You'll find someone else. But I don't want someone else. I like you. You're a nice guy. You'll be alright. I don't think I'm going to be alright. I can't worry about this right now. I have my own life to live. Excuse me.
Hey, buddy. There you are. Don't hey, buddy, me. You cost me my best friend. He's moving out. No, that little furball? Who cares? We have each other. Jehovah, I don't think you understand. I don't even like you. What? But you pray to me all the time. I pray to you to tell you how much I don't like you. Yeah, but that's what makes you different. Sure, I have millions of worshipers, but they all want something. When they pray, they're just asking me for stuff or expecting stuff. You just tell me things. That's what makes us besties. Jehovah, I want you to understand this. I hate your guts. All you do is lie to people and use people and trick people. How can you say that? I'm like a father to you. A father? You're like a deadbeat father. You watched my whole life while I got my ass kicked by everyone and everything, and you never helped me or anyone else ever. Get this through your head, Jehovah. I hate your guts. You are the worst person in the universe. Yeah? Well, I'm also the most powerful person in the universe. Bitch. You better remember that. You're messing with the best. And guess what else? I don't give a rat's pajamas.
I lost her. She gone. She's gone now. Didn't know it was happening. I knew her eyes changed. I just didn't know what it means. Don't have very much life experience with those kind of things. I just woke up one morning and I didn't know where she was. And I got dressed and went outside, and it was all dark and windy. And I just walked around looking for her for a long time. When I found her, she was out in the field. She was just standing out there alone, and I started walking towards her, and then she turned around and I saw the look on her face. And I knew the end of the world had finally come. Came as a thief in the night. It was the first time that we had ever been apart, you know, ever since I met her. That was the first time we were ever intentionally standing apart. And I could just see the expression on her face from far away, and I knew that everything we had built together was about to get destroyed now. I still remember that first night I made her mine. Won her over. It was awesome. Treasured memory. I love it. I took her to this Italian restaurant on the waterfront. Very classy. And I had this special evening planned out meticulously. I even conspired with the waiter at the restaurant to make a distraction on the other end of the room so I could sneak up behind her with a necklace and surprise her. She loved it. After dinner, I took her down this little sidewalk that goes out into the woods. And we walked down, and there was flowers on both sides, and everything was just beautiful. We were there in the moonlight. I wanted to show her this secret waterfall that nobody knows about but me. And we were deep in the woods, and we just stood there under the stars for a long time, listening to the water and just looking at the waterfall. And stood there for a long time talking, and I didn't really say anything. I just listened to her, and then she finally stopped and looked over at me, and I looked over at her, and I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the little box covered in black velvet. And she looked down, and she just froze for a couple of seconds. And then she lunged into my arms. And I held her so tight. her kisses were just so warm. It was just an unbelievable feeling, and all the pain that was inside me all my life just melted away. A terrible loneliness. It was over. It was finally over. I found my person at long last. And I just knew that my long journey through life was over. The lonely road finally brought me to my person, and I was never going to be alone again. And it was just the most awesome feeling. I remember driving home that night, and it was just like this glowing feeling that everything was right in the world. It had all come together and everything worked out. And when we got home, I just stood in the hallway and watched her through the bedroom door while she was stepping out of her heels and hanging up her dress. And it was just unbelievable to me. There was no pretenses anymore. It was just like I had won. She was home now. This was her home. She just made herself at home. This house, it was like our Camelot. She was my Lady Guinevere. And our fairy tale had a happy ending. What I remember most about our life together was the walks we would go on. We'd go out in the country just for miles, just walking around. Not even going anywhere, just wandering the countryside, looking at wildflowers. Found an arrowhead one time. To me, it was like this sacred thing, though. It was like a parable for the journey of life, you know? I gotta tell you, my life has been just horrible. I just had this horrible past of just just bleak outlook, always feeling terrible inside, just this terrible loneliness and a loud, noisy sound and fury signifying nothing all my life. And then when she came into the picture, it was just like, you know, it's just 3 years we were together, but those were my quiet years. I had this peace. It was the first time I had a peaceful life. She brought peace into my life, and it was a genuine thing. And I guess I knew in the back of my mind that Babylon the Great was still right over the horizon there. The world empire of scum and evil. I knew it was still out there. I just didn't know it would find us. Didn't know it was coming for us. Just had this period of respite in our lives, her life too, where everything was safe, and I just protected her and nothing was going to hurt us. Man, I can't believe it is. Best thing that ever happened to me. Boy, I'll tell you. Can't believe I let it slip through my fingers. It just happened so fast. I wouldn't have let it happen. It's the future that's lost now that I regret even more. I miss the future more than the past. All the planning and hoping and promising we did for years, it's just all worthless now, crumbled to nothing. Our future that we had together, all the decades of bliss and intimacy that we were just planning, it's lost. It's gone. Retirement years, dressed in black with silver hair, art galleries, trips to the wine country, whatever. Okay. I just, you know, I've always had this death fear for so long, and it just diminished. When I thought about her and I aging together, the idea of approaching death didn't even scare me anymore. It became something I was looking forward to, the idea of dying. She made death look appealing to me. It used to be something that would keep me up at night. I just had this peace now when I would imagine lying on a bed one day, and then, she'd be holding my hand, and I'd just look at her pretty face one last time, and I know she'd be smiling at me, and then I'd shut my eyes forever, and that'd be it. She'd be the last thing I ever saw. And that just gave me the warm feeling. I still visualize our gravestone. I always imagined our tombstone, very ornate, with both of our names carved in it, and it was this strange solace I got from that. The idea of our bodies lying beneath the ground together forever. I'd imagine futuristic goth kids 100 years from now, standing above our graves, smoking, wondering who we were, making up stories. Just sucks now knowing, in all likelihood, we will die far apart. Different times, different places on the globe. One of us not even knowing that the other half has perished. Thoughts have perished and returned to dust. One of us is dust now. And she won't even know it happened. She won't know that I have gone back to Sheol, the place where there is no devising nor knowledge. I'm in Sheol now. Goodbye. My thoughts have perished, and I cease to exist. The world has passed away, and so has its desire. I've become obsessed with the infinity machine. You may have heard of it, or you may not have. It was the cover feature of the Time magazine from October 11th, 2013. Well, just one of those cover stories. And, I read about it and just became totally obsessed with it. And not a day has passed since that I've been able to stop thinking about it. The machine has not been able to get much notice from mainstream society, as it were. Most people who hear of it can't understand what it is or can't believe that it's true. They don't believe it's a real thing. It is a computer made out of atoms that utilizes the atomic particle's ability to be in multiple places at the same time. You see, just like a conventional computer, it uses ones and zeros, binary code, to perform its operations. However, it represents these numbers with electrons and photons, which do not obey the physical law of being in one place at one time. A subatomic particle can signify a 1 or a 0 or both at the same time all the time. Every 0 is 1 and every 1 is every other 1 and every 0 is every other 0 and every other 1 and every other 0 too in the universe. Exponentiating so quickly that in practical theory, a completely operational quantum computer should be able to complete more computations per second than the number of atoms in the universe. No, you did not mishear me. Currently under experimentation in NASA's Artificial Intelligence Lab, an isolated chamber 2 orders of magnitude colder than stellar space at 459 degrees below zero. A temperature lower than that of the Boomerang Nebula, 5,000 light years away, the second coldest place now known in the galaxy. It's a single microchip engulfed in a tank of liquid helium, with a solid gold superconductor creating an unbreakable circuit that keeps going forever. A computer with no rules, no limits. Math problems ordinary computers would take centuries to sort out, and this computer can do it instantly, fraction of a second. It's the last invention the human race will ever have to make, because it will invent everything else for us. It will cure every disease, build every necessary robot, solve every imaginable problem on the planet Earth. It will finally be able to correctly tell us the answer. How did humans come into existence and why? I was watching a TV show about the infinity machine, And the host there was interviewing the team of scientists working on the project, and he asked one of them, "Are you hoping to see the computer fully realized in your lifetime before you die?" And the scientist leaned forward in his chair and said, "If the machine is fully realized, nobody will die." A friend called the other night and said, "Why are you doing this, Tom?" Sitting alone in that house night after night after night, mourning for one girl. And I said, "A girl, a soul, an irreplaceable soul. Idle tears originating from the depth of some divine despair, which rises from the heart and gathers to the eyes, as we look at happy autumn fields and remember days that are no more. Fresh is the first beam of light on sails that bring new ships from the underworld. Sad is the last which reddens over the bow and sinks with all we love below the verge. So sad, so fresh, are days that are no more, never to return." And he said, "Yeah, I hear you, man, but I just feel sorry for you, though." And I said, "My dear amigo, I'm the one that feels sorry for you. But on your course in this life, you didn't meet that one person. You'd burn it all down. The one that taught you its vanity and striving after wind. The empty endeavors of this system of things, this old world that's passing away. Tearing down storehouses to build bigger storehouses. Is that what you think I should be occupying my time with? But there is something you could do for me," I told him. "Maybe 50 or 60 years from now, you may be an old man standing out in your backyard, tinkering with some woodwork, and you'll look over and see two little bugs sitting together on a board of wood. And you'll say, 'What made that little bug want to sit so close to the other little bug?' Or one summer day you'll see two hummingbirds playing together, chasing and weaving through the honeysuckle, and you'll wonder, could it be him and her, reincarnated, and they don't even know it? One night you may lift your eyes to the stars and see one that seems to be twinkling for the other one. And you'll remember old JwFairyTales and wonder, could it be that even after the veil of death has passed, his love for her still burns that hotly? No longer possessing name or gender or sentient thought, miracles he and her once had and never will again. But maybe in a chance encounter on the other end of the universe in a million years, some bit of space dust that used to be part of her will look over and wonder, why did that comet's tail seem to shimmer at me as it went by?
Jehovah Bear, what's wrong? Pull yourself together. It's your house guest, Jehovah. He has a stick of dynamite. Dynamite? Yup, he's holding a match to it. He says he's gonna blow himself up, commit suicide. Oh my God. Come on!
Jehovah, what are you doing? What's it look like I'm doing, man? I'm gonna light the fuse on this dynamite and swallow it. Take myself out like a man. Why? Because I'm a piece of crap, that's why. You said so yourself, I suck. I deserve to die. Now I'm gonna make myself into spaghetti. You like spaghetti, don't you?
Well, who cares what I say? You don't need me. You're Jehovah.
Of course I need you. I'm an old school god. Don't you get it, man? I can only exist when people believe in me. Yeah, but you have millions of people that believe in you. There's less every day. The kingdom halls are emptying out. Someday, nobody will even believe in religion anymore. Yeah, but that'll be like 10,000 years from now. That's like 2 weeks to me, man. I'm God. When this world turns completely secular, I won't exist. I'll be dead. Why drag it out? Anyway, this is just one stick of dynamite I'm gonna blow up. It'll kill me, but no one else will get hurt. Well, you're also holding that kid, though. That does it. I'm lighting the fuse. No, wait. Please. Don't do it. I'll give you anything. Anything? Yes. I'll do anything you want. I want you to forget about Jehovah's Witnesses now and move on with your life. What? I want you to stop thinking about and talking about Jehovah's Witnesses and go on now. This is my identity. I'm an apostate JW. This is who I am. I know that. But I want you to be someone else now. You want me to turn into a worldly person? No, I want you to turn into a normal person before it's too late. Yeah, well, that's fine and good. It's easy for you to say move on. You didn't have my childhood. You haven't lived my life. Tom, you've had a great life. The most beautiful girl you ever laid eyes on became friends with you, and then fell in love with you. She gave you part of her life. And now you sit around feeling sorry that you didn't get the whole thing? Well, it doesn't work that way. Life is a composite of good things and bad things. If you and her hadn't been raised, JW, you never would have even met each other. Life is a combination of experiences. The good people you've met and the bad people. All the experiences you've had. It makes you who you are. It's taught you what you know. You've learned something that has eluded almost everyone. You found out the truth about life. Not the Jehovah's Witness truth. The real truth. That God is love. And if she meant as much to you as you say, then honor her now by going on with your life and turning into the type of man she wanted you to be. There's no more time on the clock for you. This is it. You either become a person now or you'll be a shadow of a person forever. This is the last stagecoach out of Dodge, man. This is it for you. But what about exposing the Watchtower Corporation and all the evil stuff they do? There's people in this world who will do that. You're not meant to be one of them. You don't have the heart for it. Yours is a heart that forgives, even for people that don't deserve it. That dynamite you're holding isn't real, is it? Tom, none of this is real. I'm not real. Disfellowshipping isn't real. See, that's the thing about JWs and ex-JWs. It's all imaginary stuff. It's just in people's minds. And that's why it's okay to walk away from it and forget now. It's time to have faith that your old friends and family will fix their own problems. It's not up to you. You need to believe that the history of Jehovah's Witnesses will unfold as it should, without you. And when you look back and remember the JWs, I hope you'll realize But the worst thing about them was also the best thing about them. They wanted to live forever. Well, I don't think you need me around here anymore, so I guess this is goodbye forever, Tom. So long. See ya. Goodbye, Jehovah. Oh, and don't make a habit out of looking back. 'Cause I have a habit of turning people into pillars of salt.
Looks like you got your timecraft loaded up. I guess this is goodbye.
Yep. So long. Nice knowing you.
Where are you headed to?
Oh, a few different places. The planet Nibiru is swinging by in its, million-year orbit, and I heard they're having a pod race. A pod race? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to enter the timecraft in it. I think that is a pretty good shot. I guess Jehovah is going to be entering his celestial chariot in a race between there and the Pleiades star system where he lives, and, I want to give him a run for his money.
Well, I'm going to be rooting for you, man.
Thanks. What are you going to be up to?
Nothing, I guess.
I heard you're not an apostate anymore.
Nah, I just don't want to be. I hope everyone will still like me, though.
Maybe I should stay here with you for a while.
But what about your pod race?
Oh, there's always the next, there'll be another million-year orbit.
But I thought you hate me.
Oh, I do. I hate your guts. You're stupid and weak. I don't respect that. But, you go to some pretty good restaurants, though, so, I just want to be there for that. Maybe we should go to Fur's cafeteria tonight.
That sounds good.
Great. I'll call Brother Fancy on the phone and see if he wants to meet us there.
That sounds really good.
All right.
Jehovah Bear, thanks.
You bet. Anyway, I'm just gonna go get my fanny pack on now.
Not so fast, punk. Walter Thickpenny? What are you doing here? Oh, I'm here to throw you under the bus. Nobody throws me under the bus. Well, first time for everything, I guess. You just mind your own business, Walter. You stay the hell away from me. I've got Jehovah Cow backing me up. Shut up, Jehovah Cow. Get lost. All you know how to do is make omelets. He's really good at making omelets. His omelets are good, I admit that. But it's one talent. It won't get you anywhere in the world. Besides, you're too small to stand at the grill. No kitchen would hire you. Don't listen to him. We're united in friendship, Walter. You can't break that. And everyone knows you're in a wheelchair. You have no chance of catching us. Oh, well, I guess you didn't get the memo. What memo? I'm in an electric wheelchair now. What? That's right. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I'm coming after you. And I'm gonna get you. Enjoy your spaghetti dinner at First Cafeteria tonight, 'cause it will be your last.
Remember
She put her head back down and continued hobbling to the other side of the street, and then the light changed and I drove away, but I mean, it just shot my nerves. I don't know why on that particular day. I think I have seasonal affectional disorder, those rainy days. The rest of the day, all I could think about was just the irony of the whole situation, that this estrangement with my biological mother was all due to everything that in our family's all effed up. Everything's like all jumbled up and crazy now, and it was all based in this idea a long time ago of all of us as a family unit entering into the paradise. And the idea was that by regimenting to this lifestyle, that we were all going to coalesce as a family unit and enter into the paradise of life without end at last. And the irony being that half of us are dead now, the other half of our family is old. Shit, even I'm old now. And I don't know, there was a surrealism in that moment of, I don't know why, it was just like I was looking at this little old lady and I was thinking, I'm a genetic copy of this person. I'm like a carbon copy of this person, that they literally created me of their own DNA, and that's where I guess I came from. And that she wouldn't wave a handkerchief at me. I don't know. Well, it's a strange world. These are strange days, and well, it's hard being a normal person in a crazy world like this, but that's what's going on. It's just that paradise thing. It doesn't make sense to outsiders, but, well, it's paradise. That's what's going on. My dad was a man who was fixated on the Jehovah's Witness paradise, specifically the idea that dead people could live again. My father was absolutely obsessed with this concept, and it was something that was to the detriment of our entire family. He was so firmly fixated on the resurrection, the paradise, that he felt that nothing else mattered, and that was the way we lived, that nothing mattered except for the kingdom paradise.
They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased. They call us liars. They call us mentally diseased.
Anyway, after 1975, church membership started to dwindle a little bit, and it picked up later, but, you can just imagine why. People saw that, wow, son of a gun, duped again. This ending of the world didn't happen. A lot of people will join, not only because they're interested in this Armageddon thing and they want to read up on it, but they also do so out of fear. Wow, what if it's true? What if Jesus is coming? I don't want to go to hell. So, they would join just for that reason. I want to jump on the bandwagon here. And then, of course, when 1975 comes and goes and Jesus didn't come back, screw it. Then they go back to their life of indulgence and, drunkenness, whatever. That's really all religion is for most people, guys. It's escapism. And they would be drunks, they would be wife beaters or degenerates of whatever sort. if it wasn't for this damn thing that they think is holding them together. It's pretty pathetic. So you wouldn't be a decent person except for the fear of, I'm going to be judged. That's not really a decent person now, is it? That's a decent person with a phony motive for being decent. This is how most Christians are. And this is why they're so resistant to the truth about the Bible being bullshit. This is why they can't admit it. Because they're afraid they're going to go off the deep end. So their morality really isn't based on a genuine, sincere desire to do what's right. They don't really believe in the truth because it is the truth. And even if they do have doubts that it might all be bullshit, they don't want to take a chance. What if? What if? So I'll believe it anyway. Ordinarily, I'd be out robbing people's houses. That's not genuine morality now, is it? But then again, the Bible.
Well, not our family. We sat at the dining room table and studied the Bible. That's what we did. My dad wasn't one of these guys that would crack open a beer and watch TV in the evenings. He sat at the table, our family, and we would study these friggin' Watchtower books. I remember one particular study. We were going through one of these generic books they had in the 80s, one of those 192-page books that they pushed out every year. And and we would study the questions and answers and do this. And this was like a 2-hour thing almost every night. This one incident, there was a picture with a caption, and my dad asked my older sister to give a rundown of it, and my sister was looking at it. It was one of these paradise pictures that was drawn in two-tone colors back in the 80s, and it had the smiling people, and one of them was holding a panda. And my sister, she was in high school at the time, and she's like, well, it's not real. And Dad said, what do you mean it's not real? And she said, well, I mean the picture, it's like a cartoon, you know? And Dad said, oh, okay. And she's like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. I just mean it's just a drawing. It's not like a real life thing. And Dad said, okay. Well, that Sunday after the meeting, Dad had instructed my mother to pack a picnic basket. He said that we were going to have a picnic lunch after the meeting. And when the Kingdom Hall let out, we all piled into the family station wagon, the 1980 station wagon. And we started driving. We drove for about an hour, and nobody knew where we were headed to. Well, we started driving into this area in northern Kansas called the Smoky Hills. And we were winding down these roads, going nowhere, and eventually my mom was like, Jim, where are we going? And he said, a place. And we went down this particular rock road that just, it started tapering away to nothing, and then we eventually just came to we were literally where the road ends. There was nowhere left, and we pulled up to the end of this road, and we were just in this empty area, and there was these two sandstones, these two giant sandstones that were standing there like monoliths. And we got out of the car.
Isn't genuine morality. Not morality at all. It's immorality. The whole damn book from Genesis to Revelation. That's all it propagates is immorality. It's all Yahweh propagates. Anyway, let's jump up to the 1980s now with the Jehovah's Witness cult here. When membership loss grew into the hundreds of thousands by the end of the 1970s, President Franz and the conservative majority on the governing body took action. Something had to be done to bring those numbers back up, get the money flowing back again. Let's see, we can't come up with another phony prediction because that's going to, hurt us more in the long run. We've got to do something else here, another strategy. In the spring of 1980, they initiated a crackdown on dissidents, breaking up the independent Bible study groups at headquarters and forming judicial committees to have those seen as ringleaders put on trial for disloyalty and apostasy. So We got to get rid of independently minded people here, independent thinkers. Again, all churches work this way, guys. When you go against the leadership and, try to expose their corruption, their lies, their scams, the false doctrines they teach, whatever. Well, false doctrine, whatever that means. The whole Bible is false doctrine, but you know what I'm saying. Pick your church, doesn't matter, they're all the same. They'll all do this. You don't question the church leadership. You can even question God in some instances. Question the Bible. But don't question the church leadership. By the time this JW purge culminated in the forced resignation and subsequent excommunication of the president's nephew and fellow governing body member Raymond Franz, a siege mentality took hold on the worldwide organization, with major turmoil now taking place. Big shakedown. Even witnesses who left quietly and voluntarily for personal reasons were denounced as disloyal and were ordered to be shunned, with former friends forbidden to say as much as a single...
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to affect me the way it did. I don't know, I guess it had just been a long time, but that just kind of came out of nowhere. And anyway, she looked at the windshield of my car. I don't know if she saw me in the rain or the reflection or whatever, but she looked up and she had this, just gave me this blank look for about 3 seconds, and then she caused unbelievable destruction in all of our lives. My siblings, my mother, I mean, all of us were just scarred and maimed beyond recognition. We're not even like people anymore. My sister's in a mental hospital. They'll never let her out. She barricaded the door, tried to set everything on fire. When I still visualize him to this day, he is almost like a Charlton Heston type figure that I always have these visuals. I don't know if these are exaggerated things in my mind or not. I see him he was a book study conductor, and downstairs at our Kingdom Hall we had the B school and the C school, and he was always in the C school, and he had the book study each week. And our Kingdom Hall had a downstairs in this big room. They had, in the 70s they had these wallpaper murals. Well, our Kingdom Hall had this wraparound, picturesque mural of a paradise scene. It was like a panoramic picture that they had made. It was like a photograph of this wooded area with a stream that went through it, and there was deer, and then there was flowers everywhere, and it was just this huge sprawling scene. And my dad, I just always have this visual of my dad sitting there in the conductor's seat, and he captivated his audience every week. I just remember him. He was one of these. He was a big man, but he was different than other big men, in that his voice never lifted any higher than this, and yet he commanded such respect and attention from the entire congregation that I just remember all of us, week after week, year after year, just sitting there and being, it was almost spellbinding. The way that my dad, he wasn't one of these people that had wild gestures or pounding their fist or anything. He almost spoke it was almost a lullaby. He could almost lull you into a sense of calm. Too much. He was too reassuring to many people's damage. That his confidence was something that harmed people. Too much confidence in the kingdom. I remember we used to have family studies after school. After school, after you finished your homework, you probably went outside and shot basketball, hoops, or whatever.